We are up to Mishna Chet, the final Mishnah in the third paragraph of Rosh Hashana. The Mishnah now will continue the theme from the previous Mishnah of the importance of Kavanat Halev, of having the proper concentration, proper mindset, and will bring two stories from Chumash which underscore this importance of having the appropriate Kavanah. Story number 1. V'haya ka'asher yarim Moshe yado v'gavar Yisrael. When Moshe Rabbeinu would lift up his hands, then Bnei Yisrael would be victorious. This is, of course, the story when Amalek attacks Bnei Yisrael shortly after leaving Mitzrayim, and Hashem tells Moshe, go up to the top of the mountain, and go up the mountain. When you raise your hands, then Bnei Yisrael will be victorious. Asks the Mishnah, next line, V'chi yadav shel Moshe osot milchama o shovrot milchama. Do the hands of Moshe Rabbeinu, do they make the battle or break the battle? Do they make it or break it? Meaning, is it possible that Moshe Rabbeinu's physical hands and their position were really instrumental in the victory? Answers the Mishnah, Ela lo marlach, rather it is to say, Kol zman shehayu Yisrael mistaklim klape mala umishabdim et libam la'avihem shabashamayim. As long as Bnei Yisrael would be looking heavenward and focus their hearts on serving Hashem, then hayu mitgabrim, then they would have the upper hand, they would be victorious. V'im lav, but if not, hayu noflim, then they would fall, then they would be defeated. Again, it wasn't the physical hands of Moshe Rabbeinu, rather it was the mindset and the appropriate kavanat halev, the focus of Bnei Yisrael, which would make it or break it, which would make all the difference. The Mishnah now continues with a second story to highlight the importance of having the appropriate mindset. This time the story is from Bamidbar Perek Chaf Aleph, chapter 21. The story is that Bnei Yisrael in the 40th year of the Midbar, this is their final year in the desert, they complain about their food. Particularly they complain about the man. Hashem sends a plague of serpents which kill many among Bnei Yisrael. They recognize their sin. They come to Moshe Rabbeinu and plead for him to pray on their behalf. And Hashem tells Moshe to construct an image of a fiery serpent and to put it on a pole. And anyone who is bitten by one of these serpents, by one of these snakes, should look at the snake and will be healed. And that's what Moshe does. He constructs a copper serpent and puts it onto the pole. And indeed they were healed. So let's read the Mishnah now together. So Kayotze badavar ata omer. So similarly to the first story about Amalek with Moshe Rabbeinu, Asei lecha saraf. So Hashem tells Moshe, construct a fiery serpent, visim oto al nes, and place it on a pole. V'haya kol hanashuch, and anyone who is bitten by the snakes, v'ra'a oto v'chai, and he will look at it, okay, v'chai, and he will live. Asks the Mishnah, v'chi nachash mimit o nachash mechaya. Does a snake kill, or does a snake heal? Now, obviously, a real snake could kill, but here we're talking about the copper image of the snake. So, what's going on in this story? Why is it that just by looking at this copper snake, all of a sudden they'll be healed, and if they don't look at it, they won't be healed? What's going on? Explains the Mishnah, Ella, next line, Ella, Bizman sheYisrael mistaklim klapi mala umishabdim et libam la'aviyam shabashamayim. Rather, as long as Bnei Yisrael would look heavenward, and they would focus their hearts on serving Hashem, then hayu mitrapin, then they would be healed. V'im lav, but if not, meaning, if nothing changes inside them, if they remain the same person that they were the day beforehand, then hayuni mokim, then indeed they would perish from the bite of the snake. It wasn't the physical looking at the snake which had the capacity to kill or to heal. Rather, it was the impact that had on the person. That's what made all the difference. That's what determined whether or not the person would survive or perish. Mishnah Chet now continues and concludes with the following halacha. Cheresh, Shota, Vikatan. These three individuals, a Cheresh, someone who is deaf and mute, a Shota, someone who is mentally incompetent, and a Katan, a minor, these three individuals, Ein Motzi'in et Harabim Yidei Chovatan. They cannot help others discharge their mitzvah of Tkiyat Shofar. The reason is that because they themselves are not obligated in the mitzvah of Tkiyat Shofar, and if a person is not obligated in a mitzvah, then he or she cannot help others fulfill their mitzvah. As the Mishnah formulates as a rule, as a principle, in the last two lines, Zeh haklal, this is the rule. Kol she'eino mechuyav badavar, anyone who's not obligated in the thing, meaning in any given mitzvah, then eino motzi et harabim yidei chovatan. They cannot help the rabbim, the others, the masses, fulfill their mitzvah. Meaning, if a person could fulfill the mitzvah, him or herself, then that's great. And if not, then one can only be assisted by someone who is himself obligated in that particular mitzvah. This applies to our mitzvah of Tkiyat Shofar. For other examples, it applies to the mitzvah of Megillah. It applies to the mitzvah every Shabbat of reciting Kiddush. It applies to many other mitzvot as well.